this is my belief and what I've been trying to tell people in Washington, which is if you thought social media censorship was bad, this has the potential to be 1,000 times worse. And the reason is social media is important, but at the end of the day, it's quote, just people talking to each other. AI is going to be the control layer on everything. Right. So AI is going to be the control layer on how your kids learn at school. Right? It's going to be the control layer on who gets loans. It's going to be the control layer on does your house open when you come to the front door.
Wow.
It's going to be the control layer on everything. Right. And so if that gets wired into the political system the way that the banks did and the way that social media did, like we are in for a very bad future. And that's a big thing that we've been trying to prevent is to keep that from happening.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the Corbett Report. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, coming to you, as always, from the sunny climes of Western Japan, here in March of 2025, with episode 473 of the Corbett Report podcast, Algocracy, Government for the New World Order. And those chilling opening words portraying what a government by algorithm might look like come to us via Mark Andreessen on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, where Mark is warning us about the possibilities of not just social media censorship and control, but AI censorship and control, and how much worse that will be when AI is a layer on everything we do and everything we use. Now, all right, let's start today's exploration, which will no doubt get into why I do not trust Mark Andreessen to keep us safe from the coming AI technocratic overlords by defining our terms, because probably this is a new term for most people in the audience, algocracy, and this is a term that we can work out from etymology, if nothing else. Kratos, of course, being the Greek word for rule, which is where we derive, for example, democracy, demos, Kratos, rule by the public, or for example, autocracy, the autocrat. That is rule by self-rule. Well, in that case, of course, referring to the self-rule as in a rule by a dictator who rules by himself. Or, I suppose there's kleptocracy, rule by thieves. Or, as I hope my listeners are aware by now, kakistocracy, rule by the worst or the most evil, which may be an apt description of, well, governing systems generally. But at any rate, algocracy, then, is rule by algorithm. And if you think that such a thing is some far-off weird fantasy that who on earth is even talking about that, well, may I present to you, a completely different clip from the Joe Rogan Experience with Mark Andreessen.
I've said publicly, and I'm kind of half joking, that we need AI government.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds crazy to say, but instead of having this like alpha chimpanzee that runs the tribe of humans, how about we have some like really logical, fact-based, program that makes it like really reasonable and equitable in a way that we can all agree to. Right. And let's govern things in that manner.
Curious. Yes, let me spell that out for anyone who didn't notice. Yes, that is the exact same pair of people, i.e. Mark Andreessen and Joe Rogan, who in the opening clip were warning about the dangers of a world of AI governance on top of every aspect of our lives being layered with AI. Isn't that a scary prospect? But yes, that's the exact same pair who are now chortling about how it sounds crazy to say it, but we need AI government. Yep. Instead of having like this alpha chimpanzee that runs the tribe of humans. How about we have some really logical, fact-based, program? Yup. That, makes it really reasonable and equitable in a way that we can all agree to let's govern things in that manner. Wow. Yeah, right. Okay, these are the guys that are going to save you from the AI nightmare of the future. Because don't worry, Andreessen and his team of technocratic crusaders are going to save you from that woke liberal AI and replace it with the cool Trumpian AI. Woohoo! Sign me up. All right. In case you need to know what is happening here, I will direct your attention to a series that I sincerely hope my listeners are already familiar with, but if not, you will be now. It is called The Dark MAGA Gov Corp Technate. It is being penned by Ian Davis, previous guest of the Corbett Report, and it is up on Unlimited Hangouts, so far Part 1 and Part 2. I would sincerely hope you are following this series. But in this series, Ian spells out exactly who Andreessen is and what his connections are. For example, in this section on the techno-populist myth, he writes, rather than techno-populists, it is the techno-kings, you have to see part 1 of the series to understand that reference, who have been assisting Trump's selection of his administration's personnel. Musk's influence is well known, but Marc Andreessen, the venture capitalist co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz, is another influencer. Andreessen has not just been involved in making Trump's picks for technology and economic-related positions, areas where he perhaps has some expertise, but also for U.S. defense and intelligence posts. Andreessen's Machiavellian reasons for supporting Trump are obvious. As reported by The Verge, in July 2024, Andreessen spelled out that he and his partners were backing Trump, not because they shared any of the concerns voiced by Republican voters, but because they could use the Trump administration to deliver the regulatory environment they wanted for their project to succeed. That project is a GovCorp technate. Not technopopulism, but techno-optimism. In 2023, Marc Andreessen published the Techno-Optimist Manifesto. He explained precisely why he and his tech king partners have seized their opportunity. We can advance to a far superior way of living and of being. We believe that there is no material problem, whether created by nature or by technology, that cannot be solved with more technology. We have a problem of poverty, so we invent technology to create abundance. Give us a real-world problem, and we can invent technology that will solve it. Combine technology and markets, and you get what Nick Land has termed the techno-capital machine, the engine of perpetual material creation, growth, and abundance. We believe in accelerationism, the conscious and deliberate propulsion of technological development to ensure the techno-capital upward spiral continues forever. We believe intelligence is an upward spiral as people form symbiotic relationships with machines into new cybernetic systems. We believe artificial intelligence is our alchemy, our philosopher's stone. We believe in augmented intelligence just as much as we believe in artificial intelligence. Intelligent machines augment intelligent humans, driving a geometric expansion of what humans can do. And then Ian writes, this is pure accelerationist neo-reaction, strongly influenced by technocracy. If you do not understand any of those words in that sentence, well, at the very least, go back to part 1 of this series and read through the whole series. And follow that up with, I don't know, type the word technocracy into my search bar, start perhaps with my questions for Corbett on what is technocracy, and follow the thread from there, because these are some very important terms that, as I hope you can start to understand, are becoming more and more important, but as Ian sums up here, at least in this section of his very voluminous article, they, as in Thiel, Andreessen, and Musk, want to implement the Dark Enlightenment and are hell-bent on establishing GovCorp technates. Their oligarch network is indistinguishable from the Trump administration. Currently, the most powerful nation on Earth is in their hands. And there are receipts to back all of this up, including some of the ones that that Ian referenced just in those few paragraphs, let alone the many references in the overall series. But for example, yes, as the New Republic was reporting, here are all the tech bros helping Elon Musk gut the government. And of course, they do mention Marc Andreessen was among those directly involved in recruiting and interviewing efforts for positions in Trump's incoming administration. And they even go out and straight call him technocrat. The technocrat is one half of Andreessen Horowitz. And yes, again, we can get this from the Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness, in which they report, Andreessen has been quietly and successfully recruiting and interviewing candidates for positions across the incoming administration. The venture capitalist reach is not limited to decisions related to tech and economics personnel, one person who speaks to Trump regularly said. Andreessen has also advised the incoming administration on candidates for posts at the Department of Defense and intelligence agencies, that person said, and you can read more on that in that article. And why on earth would we not trust this wonderful technocratic venture capitalist who is out saying that AI is their alchemy and philosopher's stone and they're going to augment humans into cybernetic systems? Why wouldn't we trust someone like that sitting there at the heart of the Trump administration directing who will populate various agencies? Well, some indication of that might come from this Verge article on the moral bankruptcy of Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. Two of Silicon Valley's famous venture capitalists make the case for backing Trump, that their ability to make money is the only value that matters, and it dissects an edition of the Ben and Mark Show, the podcast that they do together, where they laid out their reasons quite stunningly and quite out there in the open, the exact reasons that they want to be sitting there at the heart of government, directing government agencies, is so that they can ensconce themselves more deeply in the process of governing over individuals and ultimately the planet itself. In order to bring about their techno-optimistic agenda, guys. It's not technocracy, and it's not rule by technocrats. No. It's techno-optimism. They're going to make the world a better place, and why wouldn't you trust them? All right. I trust that you, being well-informed listeners of the Corbett Report, will already have something of a suspicion that this might not be a good thing. But, I mean, come on. This is all just highfalutin sci-fi talk. It's not like anyone is actually, at the moment, implementing AI at the heart of government. Right?
And now shifting focus to Elon Musk, the Tesla CEO and head of Doge has made all sorts of headlines this week. The latest is his push to incorporate artificial intelligence for running federal departments. After firing tens of thousands of federal employees, Doge now demands the remaining to explain their weekly accomplishments via email. Now, Musk is using AI to process the email responses and determine who should remain employed. Doge has also rolled out an AI chatbot for federal workers that is being reportedly used for carrying out general tasks. According to reports, employees are using the Doge chatbot for drafting emails, creating talking points, and summarizing drafts. Meanwhile, the State Department is planning to use AI to scan social media posts of visa holders residing in the U.S. to identify if they support terror groups like Hamas.
Yeah. Newsflash for anyone who didn't catch it. The AI algorithmic overtaking of government agencies is already underway thanks to co-president Elon Hipster Soros Musk. Well, anyway, we can follow the thread of this cookie crumb trail from a variety of stories. First, coming at the very beginning of February, Elon Musk ally tells staff AI first is the future of key government agency, which notes that in a Monday morning meeting, Thomas Shedd, the recently appointed Technology Transformation Services Director and Elon Musk ally, told General Services Administration workers that the agency's new administrator is pursuing an AI-first strategy, which was followed up a few days later by this. Elon Musk's Doge is feeding sensitive federal data into AI to target cuts. Representatives from Elon Musk's U.S. Doge service have fed sensitive data from across Education Department into artificial intelligence software to probe the agency's programs and spending. The Doge team is using AI software accessed through Microsoft's cloud computing service Azure to pour over every dollar of money the department disperses, from contracts to grants to work trip expenses, one of the people said. How else are you going to look over all this data? Followed up shortly, Doge will use AI to assess the responses of federal workers who were told to justify their jobs via email, noting responses to the Elon Musk-directed email to government employees about what work they had accomplished in the last week are expected to be fed into an artificial intelligence system to determine whether those jobs are necessary, according to 3 sources with knowledge of the system. The information will go into an LLM, large language model, an advanced AI system that looks at huge amounts of text data to understand, generate, and process human language, the sources said. The AI system will determine whether someone's work is mission critical or not. Followed up by Doge's plan to replace humans with AI are already underway. The civil service is being turned over to machines, which notes that the Trump administration is testing a new chatbot with 1,500 federal employees at the General Services Administration and may release it to the entire agency as soon as this Friday. The bot, which GSA leadership is framing as a productivity booster for federal workers, is part of a broader playbook from Doge and its allies. Speaking about GSA's broader plans, Thomas Shedd, a former Tesla engineer who was recently installed as the director of the Technology Transformation Services, TTS, GSA's AIT division, said at an all-hands meeting last month that the agency is pushing for an AI-first strategy. In the meeting, a recording of which I obtained, Shedd said that, quote, as we decrease the overall size of the federal government, as you all know, there's still a ton of programs that need to exist, which is a huge opportunity for technology and automation to come into full force. He suggested that coding agents could be provided across the government, a reference to AI programs that can write and possibly deploy code in place of a human. Moreover, Shedd said AI could run analysis on contracts, and software could be used to automate GSA's finance functions. What the hell is going on here? How is the entire government being taken over and replaced by these AI-obsessed technocrat oligarchs? Well, that's a question that, hey, finally, the left side of the phony left-right bird of prey are suddenly, wouldn't you know it, broken clock, right, twice a decade, suddenly are interested in such questions. So now we have Dems asking federal agencies for reassurance Doge isn't feeding data into AI willy-nilly because they don't even know what's happening. House Democrats have sent letters to 24 federal agencies asking for assurances that Elon Musk's Doge team is not feeding sensitive government data into unapproved and unaccountable AI systems, talking about the personal information of Americans, social security numbers, bank and transaction data, etc., to be sifted through by such systems. Connolly also expressed concern over reported claims Doge has proposed cuts at many agencies based on the advice of unvetted AI systems. And the letter also cited independent analyst cyber intelligence brief, which claimed supply chain management platform Inventory.ai is ingesting government data. The analyst claims multiple U.S. government IP addresses point to its REST API. And if you want, you can follow it up by taking a look at one of those letters that are being sent. For example, this one to the Honorable Howard Lutnick. I think honorable is may not be the right word to use there. Anyway, you can go and read through what type of information even the other half of the supposed governance system doesn't even know what that half is doing, or at least what Elon Musk is directing. But it is, of course, not just Elon Musk. He is not the only billionaire tech oligarch with his snoot in this particular pie, lusting to get after not only the data of every single American and everyone else that is snarfed up by the U.S. government, but more importantly, to run AI coding agents on all of that data to get all of the information, tie things together. You know, exactly what the deep state was lusting after with its scuttled program back in 2002, 2003, the Total Information Awareness Office. Remember that, with the all-seeing eye of Horus radiating the entire Earth? Remember how they had to kind of back off on that? Okay, guys, we don't mean that. And who took over that program and who picked up that slack? Oh, suddenly, as soon as the TIA went away, Palantir was suddenly getting CIA contracts, and Peter Thiel and Alex Karp were on the scene to supply the exact services that Poindexter and the others at DARPA were lusting after in that particular program. Wow, what a coinkydink. You can find out all about it in my 3-part series on Peter Thiel and, of course, my previous editorial on Palantir itself. But let's keep moving on. As I say, these are not the only people involved. Just in case you might be thinking, wow, maybe Trump has no idea any of this is going on. No, he's quite well aware, or at least whatever person or persons are puppeteering him are quite well aware. Fact sheet: President Donald J. Trump takes action to enhance America's AI leadership. America first, by which I mean AI first, by which I mean BlackRock first. Anyway, and if you read through, of course, these terrible Biden executive orders on AI, we're all weak and stuff. We're going to have nice, strong AI for America's new AI leadership. And, of course, President Trump also took executive action in 2020 to establish the first ever guidance for federal agency adoption of AI to more effectively deliver services to the American people and foster public trust in this critical technology. You better trust it, guys. And, oh yeah, what happened on the second day of the new Trump administration? The second day. Oh, that's right. The big announcement of the $500 billion AI investment in Project Stargate, where Trump appeared alongside his best buddies, Masayoshi Son and Sam Stare into the Orb Altman and Larry CIA Deep State Oracle Ellison, to announce this wonderful breakthrough AI technology that's going to make America first and great again and all of that jazz. And what kind of things are they specifically working on with this AI technology again?
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Shocking, I know, that Mr. Warp Speed Magajab, the president who bragged that the COVID vaccine was the greatest accomplishment of his administration, would have these AI hucksters up there telling us about the marvels of AI engineering, of the next generation of mRNA vaccines or genetic interventions. Wonderful. How could this go wrong? And in case you think that this is all some 5D chess maneuver, guys, don't worry. Trump, who introduced the mRNA, approved Operation Warp Speed to warp speed those jabs right into your arms. He's really against these things, guys. No, he is not. Bill Gates on Trump meeting. Frankly, I was impressed. From January 17th of this year, billionaire, philanthropist, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates reflected on a recent dinner he had with President-elect Trump in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, saying he was impressed by the former president. And during the dinner, Trump reportedly got pretty excited as they discussed the potential development of a cure for HIV and polio mitigation efforts. He, in the COVID days, accelerated the vaccine innovation, Gates said. So I was asking him if maybe the same kind of thing could be done here, and we both got, I think, pretty excited about that. Yay, guys! AI-engineered mRNA vaccines coming right up, courtesy of Trump's good buddies like Larry Ellison. Yes, the same Larry. Don't worry, guys. AI will be surveilling you in the bathroom, so policing will improve. Ellison. Yeah, that Larry Ellison. Look it up. True story, in case you haven't seen that clip. But let's not dwell on the ancient past of 2024 and things that Larry Ellison was saying about what AI would do and how it would transform government then. No, we can go much more recent than that, specifically 2025, February of 2025, when he appeared at the World Government Summit. Yes, the same World Government Summit that Elon Musk, co-president Elon Musk, appeared at to talk about how he was White House tech support, AI first tech support for transforming the U.S. government into an algocracy. Well, Larry Ellison was there too, and he was being interviewed by Tony Blair. Yes, good old ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair, emanating his evil energy from the World Government Summit stage. And they were talking about the wonderful ways that AI can transform government as long as governments around the world just feed all of its citizens' data into the AI beast.
Tell us a bit about what, because you're right at the forefront of this revolution, what it means for what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, digital ID, data centers, and so on.
In other words, if AI is really this great, how do I take advantage of it? Because the impacts are enormous. And it's very interesting because almost no one is talking about that. Everyone is talking about, and I will answer the question in just a second. Everyone's talking about these fantastic NVIDIA chips that allow us to build these huge AI models, how the data centers, Oracle's building a 2.2 gigawatt data center that costs between 50 and soon $100 billion to build these data centers and train these models. Because these models are so expensive, you won't build your own as a rule. There'll be a handful of these models. The question is, how do you take advantage of these incredible AI models? And the first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. Everyone talks about the AI model, and they are astonishing. But how do you provide a context? I want to ask questions about my country. What's going on in my country? What's happening to my farmers? I need to give it my climate data. Now, it probably has your climate data already, but I need to know exactly what crops are growing in which farms, and to predict the output. So I have to take satellite images. I have to take those satellite images for my country and feed that into a database that is accessible by the AI model. So I have to tell the AI model as much about my country as I can. You tell part of the story with these satellite models. You give it a huge amount of information. You tell it where roads are, where borders are, where your utilities are. So you need to provide a map of your country for the farms and all of the utility infrastructure and your borders. All of that you have to provide. But beyond that, if you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. We need to unify all of the national data, put it into a database where it's easily consumable by the AI model, and then ask whatever question you like.
There we go. Trump's best buddy, Larry Ellison, talking about the ways that AI will be wonderful and transform government as long as it can snarf up every piece of data that any government has on its citizens, its country, its technology, its infrastructure, everything. Just put it all into the AI beast, and then you can ask it anything, and it will tell you the answers, and tell you what to cut, and tell you what to do. Algocracy. Wonderful thing. All right, what does this look like then? Once we feed all of this data into the maw of the AI behemoth that is being erected before our very eyes, what will be done with that data? What can be done? How can we make the world a better place through the loving embrace of this technology? Well, I don't know. How about, let's imagine some sci-fi fantasy world where you have, of course, video surveillance cameras up everywhere. And, of course, they can be connected quite easily to an AI algorithm that could scan every single person, keep track of them and their whereabouts, who they are, all of their details, financial and otherwise, in real time. So that if they so much as jaywalk, so much as step across the street in an unprescribed area, the facial recognition system will be able to automatically detect that and to detect who they are, identify them, find them, and then in real time go into their bank account and take those funds out so that by the time they finish crossing the street, the funds are already gone. They've already been fined. Psst, I know, that's sci-fi dystopian nonsense. That Big Brother 1984 stuff, that's not really happening in reality, right? No, wrong. It's not only already happening, it's been happening for the better part of a decade.
Well, you jaywalked and you had facial recognition.
This is the craziest thing. I actually got this. Yeah, so I was jaywalking in Nanshan, and all of a sudden I got a fine to my WeChat.
Was it instant?
It was about 20 seconds after, I guess. And I had money in my balance, it just went straight out. And this is just the most incredible thing. It just came straight out.
Didn't even authorize
it. And that was incredible.
That's crazy.
It's true. Try to jaywalk in certain parts of Shenzhen, and the government's facial recognition will spot you. There's even a board of shame showing the faces of recent offenders.
I'm surprised and very, very worried that they have your face in the facial recognition.
They have everyone's, though. I mean, when you get across the border, they take that picture. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's all in the system. They know where you are.
That's scary.
Oh, okay, yeah. It has already been happening for years now. But, that's in China. I mean, of course, the Chi-coms are going to be doing that kind of stuff. But in the land of the free, wherever you happen to think that might be, in the land of the free, they can't do that. A government can't just arbitrarily swoop in and decide to confiscate people's bank funds, right? Right. The Canadian truckers. All right. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, I guess it can happen, but that was a big rigmarole, a big legal thing, Emergency Powers Act, and they had to go to the banks themselves and coordinate this massive effort and use regulatory powers and all this sort of stuff. I mean, they couldn't just reach into the bank account and just scoop the funds out. I mean, that would be crazy. Can you imagine if there was someone, say, some technocratic billionaire oligarch who happens to be the co-president of the United States right now, who had the means, motive, and opportunity to create some sort of everything app, a WeChat for America and the rest of the world, which will combine all aspects of your digital identity and persona, exactly as Klaus Schwab was saying is going to happen in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. All of your data, your digital ID, your finance data, your social media history, who you talk to, where you go, all of that together in one convenient little app. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about that, right?
Possibility of Twitter becoming kind of a super app with payments included, maybe perhaps even Doge or something. This seems to me, based on your work with David at PayPal, like a pretty brilliant idea. What's the vision there in terms of if you were able to buy it, perhaps at the right price? What would it look like if, I could at Jason to at Elon Musk, $10 or something if, we were splitting a check or something?
Sure. Well, for those that have used WeChat, I think WeChat's actually a good model. If you're in China, it's basically, you kind of live on WeChat. It does everything. It's sort of like Twitter plus PayPal plus a whole bunch of other things and all roll into one with actually a great interface. And it's really an excellent app. And we don't have anything like that outside of China. So I think such an app would be really useful. And just like the utility of it, of sort of a spam-free thing where you can make comments, you can post videos, you can, I think it's important for content creators to have a revenue share. Now this does not need to be done on Twitter. It could be done from something that's created from scratch. So it could be something new. So really, but I think this thing needs to exist, whether it is converting Twitter to be the sort of like kind of all-encompassing app that, like I said, everything from digital town square where important ideas are debated, maximally trusted and inclusive, and at a point which you sort of have a high trust situation, then payments, whether it's crypto or fiat, can make a lot of sense. We just want something that's incredibly useful and that people love using. But it's either convert Twitter to that or start something new. Those are the two. But it does need to happen somehow.
Ah, right. Okay. WeChat, check. Surveillance, check. Taking all our data, check. Feeding us AI-generated mRNA vaccines, check. Yeah, it's all slotting into place. Wonderful. So what happens if you don't like the direction that things are going. What happens if you were to dissent against this? What would happen if you were to resist the coming of the Algocracy? Oh, don't worry. The Algocracy is prepared for that because, in case you didn't know, death by algorithm is already a thing too.
The Israeli Defense Forces' use of AI is not new.
I think that the most famous use of AI by the IDF is, of course, the Iron Dome, which is a defensive system that aims to disrupt the threat of missile attacks.
This system is partly what defended Israel against Iran's drone and missile attacks in April 2024.
The other one is another homegrown weapon that they have called the Smash from Smart Shooter, which is an AI precision assault rifle sight that you add on to handheld weapons. And what it does is it uses advanced image processing algorithms to hone in on a target, sort of like an auto aim in Call of Duty.
Another way Israel uses AI is through surveillance of Palestinians in the occupied territories.
Every time they pass through one of the hundreds of checkpoints, their movements are being registered. Their facial images and other biometrics are being matched against a database.
But we're now learning more about the AI systems that choose bombing targets in Gaza from two reports in the Israeli publications 972 and Local Call. Gospel is a system that produces bombing targets for specific buildings and structures in Gaza. It does this by working in conjunction with other AI tools. And like any AI system, the first step is the large-scale collection of data. In this case, surveillance and historical data on Palestinians and militant locations in Gaza.
The most famous application will be the Alchemist, which is a platform that collects data and allows the transfer of data between different departments, later being transferred to another platform, which is called the Fire Factory. The Fire Factory observes the data and categorizes it.
The generated targets are generally put into one of four categories. First, tactical targets, which usually include armed militant cells, weapons warehouses, launchers, and militant headquarters. Then there are underground targets, primarily tunnels under civilian homes. The third category includes the family homes of Hamas or Islamic Jihad operatives. And the last category includes targets that are not obviously military in nature, particularly residential and high-rise buildings with dozens of civilians. The IDF calls these power targets. Once the data is organized, it goes through a third layer called the gospel.
The gospel creates an output which suggests specific possible targets, possible munitions, warnings of possible collateral damage, and etc.
This system produces targets in Gaza faster than a human can. And within the first 5 days of the war, half of all the targets identified were from the power targets category. Multiple sources who spoke to 972 reported that the idea behind power targets is to exert civil pressure on Hamas. Hiba's home was most likely one of the power targets picked up by the gospel system.
Yes, the digital infrastructure for the total lockdown and clampdown on society and every interaction and transaction within it is already in place. The digital infrastructure for tracking down and killing dissenters of that system is already in place. I think we need to clarify what we are talking about here, because I know some people will just get hung up on the word, on the term AI. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. Great, wonderful. However, there are such things as algorithms that are already being used to target and kill people here in the real world. So the angels dancing on a head of a pin conversation is no doubt fascinating, but it is completely irrelevant to the algocracy that is already here and is ramping up as we speak. And as mind-boggling as it can be to contemplate after what we have already seen, it gets even worse. This goes to an even darker place. What could be worse than the algorithmic targeting and killing of human beings? Well, the algorithm told me to drop the bomb there, so that's what I did. What could be worse than that? Well, unfortunately, this isn't All of this AI apparatus, machinery, infrastructure isn't just about efficiency. Government efficiency, as in better efficiency in targeting, tracking down, and killing dissenters, let alone everything else that government does. No, it turns out that whoever is wearing the ring of power of algocracy, the algorithmic power, ultimately has the power not only to shape who you are individually, but ultimately to shape the direction of humanity as a whole. Do not take this from crazy, whacked-out conspiracy realist James Corbett sitting there in Japan. What does he know? No. Take it from your new algorithmic overlords, the deep state-created globalist insider organization known as Google.
Initially, the notion of a goal-oriented ledger may be user-driven. As an organization, Google would be responsible for offering suitable targets for a user's ledger. Whilst the notion of a global good is problematic, topics would likely focus on health or environmental impact to reflect Google's values as an organization. Once the user selects a volition for their ledger, every interaction may be compared to a series of parallel options. If one of these options allows the ledger to move closer to its goal, it will be offered up to the user. Over time, by selecting these options, the user's behavior may be modified and the ledger moves closer to its target. As this line of thinking accelerates and the notion of a goal-driven ledger becomes more palatable, suggestions may be converted not by the user, but by the ledger itself. In this case, the ledger is missing a key data source, which it requires in order to better understand this user. In order to plug the gap in its knowledge, the ledger begins searching for a device which delivers the required data when used. From this list, the ledger begins sorting the options most likely to appeal to the user in question. In situations where no suitable product is found, the ledger may investigate a bespoke solution. By analyzing historical data, it is increasingly possible to discern qualitative information such as taste and aesthetic sensibility, which may be used in the creation of a design proposal. With the advent of technologies such as CNC milling and the emergent possibilities of 3D printing, a custom object may be created to trigger this user's interest. In this way, the ledger is able to plug gaps in its knowledge and refine its model of human behavior. User data has the capability to survive beyond the limits of our biological selves, in much the same way as genetic code is released and propagated in nature. By considering this data through a Lamarckian lens, the codified experiences within the ledger become an accumulation of behavioral knowledge throughout the life of an individual. By thinking of user data as multi-generational, it becomes possible for emerging users to benefit from the preceding generation's behaviors and decisions. As new users enter an ecosystem, they begin to create their own trail of data. By comparing this emergent ledger with the mass of historical user data, it becomes possible to make increasingly accurate predictions about decisions and future behaviors. As cycles of collection and comparison extend, it may be possible to develop a species-level understanding of complex issues such as depression, health, and poverty. Our ability to interpret user data, combined with the exponential growth in sensor-enabled objects, will result in an increasingly detailed account of who we are as people. As these streams of information are brought together, the effect is multiplied. New patterns become apparent and new predictions become possible. Since the 1970s, huge efforts have been made in sequencing the human genome. Today, after many years of research and billions of data points, that sequence is known. By adopting a similar perspective with user data, we may begin to better understand its role. Just as the examination of protein structures paved the way to genetic sequencing, the mass, multi-generational examination of actions and results could introduce a model of behavioral sequencing. As gene sequencing yields a comprehensive map of human biology, researchers are increasingly able to target parts of the sequence and modify them in order to achieve a desired result. As patterns begin to emerge in the behavioral sequences, they too may be targeted. The ledger could be given a focus, shifting it from a system which not only tracks our behavior, but offers direction towards a desired result. We are at the very beginning of our journey of understanding in the field of user data. By applying our knowledge of epigenetics, inheritance, and memetics to this field, we may be able to make mental leaps in our understanding, which could offer benefits to this generation, to future generations, and the species as a whole.
I sincerely hope that people understand the gravity of what is being put out there. And by the way, that video is nearly a decade old now, but there it is, from the horse's mouth itself, the plan for the engineering of humanity. And the things that such algorithmic control would be capable of we are barely capable of understanding, grasping the significance of this. I mean, creating bespoke products so that you would be more likely to buy it in order to feed the algorithm the type of data that it wants based on its preferences for you and your life. Things get very, very dark very quickly. Because don't worry, guys, it's for the good of humanity, as determined by, let me check my notes. Oh, right. Larry Ellison, Elon Musk, any of these other technocratic overlords, or the people pulling their strings. This is a game for all the marbles, and I trust that if you have followed me through all these twists and turns, and more than that, more than simply followed, actually gone through this information for yourself, followed the links back that will all be there at corbettreport.com/algocracy. All of this information is there for you to check, to vet, to verify, to see for yourself where things are going. But I trust that once you do so and you realize I am not lying to you, that this information is all out there and it does add up to this coming new governing paradigm for the new world order that we're goose-stepping into, you will understand the severity of this situation. But that's only half the battle, maybe not even that. Because, as always, the real operative question is, what do we do about this? What do we do with this information? And unfortunately, I am not going to provide you with the simple 3-step solution to solving all these problems in the next 10 minutes. No, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work like that. Now, I suppose there is the simplest solution. Just ditch all technology whatsoever. Just don't feed the algorithms any information. Just go completely off-grid. And if you can accomplish that and thrive, good on you. I certainly wouldn't dissuade you from that. However, I can't even persuade even people, fellow people in the independent media, not to use Twitter. So I think the idea of completely ditching our digital lives is probably not going to happen en masse or even on an individual basis anytime soon. So we are heading into this digital dystopia one way or another. So what do we do about it? And I am all ears for suggestions. And believe you me, if there are good suggestions, please, Corbett Report members, leave your ideas in the comment section. Exactly what to do about this problem, how to solve this problem. You better believe I will do Solutions Watch galore on this issue if there are good ideas. I'm afraid I don't see many good options at the moment, other than, of course, trying to starve the beast in every way possible. But one thing that I do know is that we cannot possibly even start to combat an agenda that we can't name, that we can't identify, that we can't say, put our finger on and say, look, this is what is happening. And that's why today, at the very, very least, I hope that I have put on the plate a new term that we can understand and that we can use to explain what is happening to other people. Algocracy. I have a feeling This will be an important word for all of us going forward. So, as I say, all of the notes to all of the resources that we have gone over today will be at corbettreport.com/algocracy. And as I say, Corbett Report members wholeheartedly encouraged to log in and to leave your suggestions in the comment section. I am all ears, as I'm sure everyone else is as well. But that's going to do it for today's exploration. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, thanking you for investing your time in this incredibly important subject, and looking forward to talking to you again in the near future.
The Deep State. False Flags. 9/11 Truth. The Federal Reserve. Secret Wars and Hidden Histories. Fake news, medical martial law, ceaseless propaganda. James Corbett, reportage, essays on the New World Order. Available where books are sold, until they're not.
Reportagebook.com